Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk you through the installation of this unit that I picked up from AliExpress. It's a Forward Sync 2 to Forward Sync 3 upgrade installation video. So what you're seeing in front of you now is what's the unboxing of what arrived from AliExpress. I ordered a Forward Sync 3 APIM module, so that's the APIM with the screen, and in the package we've got the USB module adapter, a GPS antenna. You can see we got a toolkit that you saw earlier. So this is GPS antenna which needs to be attached to the new device. It doesn't have one built in. We've got with this package a screen protector as well. I didn't actually install and use this. I'm quite happy just using the screen as it is, but the package does come with a screen protector. So also in the box we've got the main unit itself, nicely packaged to avoid any damage. We've got a tool to allow for PC to connect to the unit, so if you wanted to do any further sort of programming. I didn't do this, I don't think it's necessary. The seller actually programs the unit to the VIN number, so when you order, one of the things that you want to supply is the car's VIN number, and the unit actually comes programmed to your vehicle. You'll see later that it controls all the settings and does everything that the current Forward Sync module produces. You've got the USB port module, so this is going to replace the existing one. You've got an installation guide. I mean, this is not specific to the Ford S-Max, I think it's a Ford Edge, and it details the connections, but the video later on will show you the exact installation for a Ford Galaxy or a Ford S-Max 2015 onwards. So this is the main APIM unit itself. Like I say, it's well packaged. The box that it came in was also bubble wrapped and well packaged. And here's the unit itself with the screen protector. I left the screen protector on till the very end just to avoid any scratches. As you can see on the back here, it's got the various markings, and then you've got my vehicle's VIN number, which I supplied upon ordering 2015 Ford S-Max. They program the unit so it works with your exact vehicle from the shop itself before they ship it out to you. I have to say, shipping was quick. The unit arrived within 7 days and tracking throughout. Okay, so this is now the installation video. The aim here is to get the ashtray out. So before you start, just pull, if you've got an automatic vehicle, just pull the gear stick lever back, put it into neutral, drive or sport, just so it's out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove this silver trim, this chrome trim. Just lever it out and then just give it a good pull. The clips are quite sturdy, they're not going to break. Just grab hold of it and give it a nice strong pull, and it should just detach. Once that's out, you'll see 4 torque screws that I'm pointing out. You want to remove all 4 screws. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pull the side trims off. So you can see I've just pull one off on one side. You just want to get your fingers in, get hold of it, and just give it a really good pull. And here we go, and they just come apart. Then what we want to do next is the black console that surrounds the gear stick, that center panel. We want to, unfortunately, the armrest is in the way here, but if you take the side panels off completely and put them to one side, what we want to do is move the trim surrounding the gear stick. So we're just gonna basically get a good grip on it and give it a really good pull, and it should just come away. There's about 3 clips on either side, so you can see here, get a hold of it and just give it a really good pull, get a good grip on it, and it just comes about off. So the reason why I'm doing this, because we want to just pull this out and we want to release it, move out of the way so we can get to the ashtray. So here we go, a really good strong pull, and once it's out and loose, just pull that back. We don't need to unplug it, you don't need to remove it completely, just pull it out and just move out of the way, just pull it back a bit. Once that's out, you've removed the 4 torque screws that hold the ashtray in. You can then just lever out the ashtray. Now it has got connectors in the back, because it's got the USB module as well as the cigarette lighter. So all we're going to do is just pull it out, and what I've done here is I've actually left it to one side. You could actually at this point completely remove the ashtray. Once the ashtray is out of their way, you will see 6 bolts. So there is a tool provided with the kit, and it actually fits these bolt heads. So you probably don't need to remove all 6, but what I did all remove all 6.
There are 4 bolts that need to be removed. There and there. 4 bolts.
So I'm just showing you here where the bolts are, the 2 that are still in place, and then 4 right underneath that console. Once they are out, the next thing we need to do is we need to remove the air vents. Again, these, get your plastic tools in, which are provided with the kit. Underneath, and you just want to give them a good pull again. So we do both sides. And we're doing this because that's what's going to give us access to the panel, or allow us to take the panel off that surrounds the stereo. Just going back to those bolts that removed at the bottom, there are 6. You probably don't need to remove all 6. I did. I think it just gives just a bit more leverage. I'm just going back to the ashtray now to just remove the connectors off the back and just move that out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is actually pull the panel away from the stereo. So this is the front panel. So you'll see in a bit, I'm just going to take hold of it and just give it a really good pull. And there's clips, and it should just come away. Now you can see here it just folds down. I later end up actually removing this panel completely. There's 3 pins at the bottom which sit behind the bracket. My advice now is just let this panel, leave it as it is and just let it rest. Don't remove it completely, because it actually is a bit fiddly to get back in. So the stereo unit has 4 bolts. My battery ran out. I didn't actually catch the bit where I actually unplugged these clips from the back of the module. But once you've exposed the existing APIM module, you've got 2 connections in the back. One's got a grey clip which just levers out, and then you've got a USB connection which you just push a lever in and then just pull it out. So here what I've got both APIM units side by side. And what we need to do is transfer the brackets across from the existing unit to the new unit. So these are the brackets that hold in the hold the 4 bolts and actually fit to the car. So I've just lined them up side by side, both the same way up, and I've just transferred the bracket across. 2 brackets, top and bottom, all fitted with a torque screw. So now going back to the car, you can see here now the front panel I completely took away and disconnected. There's actually not really any need to do that. You could actually let it rest on top of the gear lever, because it is just a bit more fiddly to get back in. So my advice would be not to remove the panel completely as I did, but just let the panel rest. There's 3 pins at the bottom which fit in behind the bracket. So what we're going to do next is actually fit the GPS antenna. Now I chose to remove the instrument cluster, so the speedometer, and actually fit it in above the instrument cluster. Some prefer to actually put it into the pillar. I decided not to. I think it's just a bit more exposed to the elements that maybe the adhesive might give. So to remove the instrument panel, you've got the bottom plastic there which you literally pull up, and then you want to get the bottom panel off the car because that exposes bolts. So if you pull the coin tray out, you'll see bolts underneath. You want to remove those bolts with the same tool provided. All the bolts are the same size, and then you could pull that bottom panel off. Once you've got the bottom panel off, there is a connector there. I think it's to some kind of sensor. You can remove that connector. Once you've got the bottom panel off, you will expose 2 bolts on either side for the trim that sits in front of the instrument panel. Once you've got that out of the way, again there's 2 bolts at the bottom, and it just pulls out. You'll see 4 bolts holding the instrument panel in. You want to remove those bolts, and then you can get in behind the instrument panel where you'll be able to feed the GPS, the wiring for the GPS antenna through. Now you might want to do it this way, or you might just want to put in the GPS antenna behind the stereo. I decided this was the best place for the GPS antenna to go, so you'll see in a bit where I've actually placed the GPS antenna. So it's fairly easy to get the instrument cluster out. So you can see here I've released the 4 bolts that hold instrument cluster in. Just pull it out. There's one connector behind it where you just push a lever in and it disconnects, as you can see. Once that's out, you can then feed the wiring through the GPS antenna through. So there is a channel just behind the air vent where you can actually feed the wiring through. There you go, and you can see I've just pulled it in to where the stereo is going to fit, so it sits next to the existing wiring. There's plenty of loom to go with this antenna, so what I've done is just used a tie strap and just tied it to some existing wiring that's behind the instrument panel, just so that it doesn't rattle about. So you can see just here, there's the bottom panel that got pulled off. You can see the holes where the bolts were holding the bottom panel in, and then you've got here, two bolts either side of the steering wheel that were holding the trim in that fits into something in front of the instrument panel. There's the antenna. I've just stuck that in on top of that bulkhead, fed the wiring through behind the air vent, and then you'll see here where I've just strapped the surplus wire to some existing wiring in the vehicle. So we're just going to basically put that all back together, do everything in reverse, instrument panel in, that was just me testing to make sure it lights up before I bolt it all in. Don't forget to put the connector in the back of the instrument cluster. So we then want to do everything in reverse, 4 bolts for the instrument cluster, then the trim, the top clicks in, and then you've got either side of the steering wheel 2 bolts, and again the tool provided fits all of these, the top of all of these bolts. So once that's in, we just take the bottom panel, connect that sensor back up, and we just basically clip it all in. You've got the 2 bolts that go in behind the coin tray, snap the coin tray back in, and that's the GPS antenna done. So next we're going to actually install the stereo unit itself. So there is a USB module that's going to replace the existing USB module. There's an extension adapter that comes with the stereo, so you want to put that onto the power supply to the USB connector. What I'm doing here now, I'm pulling the old USB module out of the ashtray, and it'll be obvious how it comes out. You just want to basically, there's clips behind it, you just want to push them in, leave them out, line up the new one so it's pushed in the correct way, and then you'll be ready to connect. Now normally at this point what I like to do is okay, once I've got the stereo in, so I'm just going to connect the stereo up. You'll see you've got the GPS antenna you need to connect. There's notches on either side and a clip at the bottom where you'll see how it clips in, and then you've got the 2 connectors that are going to fit into the back of the new stereo unit. So this one literally just clicks in, and then you just pull that grey lever over. So connector in, grey lever over, and it locks. And then the other one, which is a mini USB connector, and that goes into the black. So there's a grey and black socket, so that one will go into the black socket. I think the one next to it is where you can actually attach your reversing camera should you wish to install one of them. So what I like to do at this point, before I put everything back together, is actually just get the unit in, get everything connected up, turn it on, check it's working. The last thing you want to do is put it all together and then find there's an error or you missed a connection and then have to take it all apart. So what I'm doing here is I'm just plugging in the power connector and the USB connector for the USB module. So I'm just gonna let that sit there for now. Or push it back a bit so I can get the front panel on, which has the air conditioning controls, as well as the power button for the stereo unit. So all plugged in, and then hey presto, switched on, powers off straight away. It's a lot faster than the old unit. So I'm just gonna at this point just remove the plastic so you can see there's two bits of plastic in. So actually the first one you remove before you put the trim back on, the front panel back on, because that protects the entire screen, and actually it's not possible to remove that if you've got the front panel back on, and then you could leave the smaller screen protector on, which is underneath that. So you can see here it's all powered up, going through a stop sequence. So at this point it hadn't yet picked up the GPS signal, but you'll see in a bit we come back to that. We've got all the audio working. Sat nav is not yet showing up, it's just taking a bit of a while to work out the GPS location. So you've got all the vehicle settings, everything's been programmed to this vehicle. Now I'll show you the ambient lighting settings working in a bit. The reason why it's not showing us working because I haven't actually plugged the connector in for the ambient lights. So if your vehicle has the ambient lights in the cabin, you can control the color settings for it. So various options, all very responsive, all working fine. Here you go, navigation's all working. It's picked up the GPS signal. So I'm happy with that. It's all working fine. So what I'm going to do now is put the 4 bolts back in that will hold in the unit in place. So I'm not showing here, so I had to fiddle around that front panel to get back on, but my advice is don't remove that front panel completely. Air vents back in, so they just push back in. So the 6 bolts that we removed at the bottom, I'm just basically placing them back in now. So 4 go directly underneath that panel, and then 2 in front of the gear stick. Possibly you don't need to remove all 6. I did just because there is a bracket underneath there, and I think it just gives, it just creates a bit more room for that panel to come out or fall down a bit easier. So you can see there I'm putting the 2 back in directly in front of the gear stick. So ashtray in next. It's easier if the ashtray is closed. Don't forget to connect everything back up. So there's the cigarette lighter, and another connector that goes in the back. the USB module needs to be connected. So what we do here is we just basically pulling back the housing around the gear stick, slotting the ashtray back in, and then replacing the 4 Torx screws that were holding the ashtray. If you line all that up, screw it down. Next thing to do is just knock so it just clips back in. At this point, the side trims, they all just clip back in. I mean, the clips are really sturdy on this car. It's generally, I've had other vehicles where I've removed trim and the clips have just snapped off or broken, but been quite impressed with the quality actually of the trim. So the last thing we're doing is just putting the chrome housing, and again carefully just slot that in, bang it down. So here we are, final version, fully working. So we've got sync version 3.4, so that I think that's the latest one. That's what was sent out of the factory. You can see the vehicle VIN number, which is been programmed into it. So here's the ambient lighting I was talking about. So here you can control the lights. That seems to be working. Not something I've ever used, but this is really just to demonstrate that all the car settings seem to work with the new unit. Sat nav, you can't hear it here because I've taken the audio out, so I can narrate over the video, but the radio's all fully working, and what I'm going to demonstrate in a bit is the steering wheel controls. So again, you can see the volume going up and down here. Everything is functional as it was before, including the voice command, mute buttons on the steering wheel, and the radio controls. So everything as it was before. We've got the new Ford Sync 3 module, and we've got CarPlay. So this is wired CarPlay. It doesn't have wireless, but you can get adapters if you wanted to connect up and create wireless CarPlay. I'm happy with just plugging my phone in, and here we go. I used Waze and I did go for a drive. Everything is functioning as it should be. So hope the video's useful. I'd say you could probably do this if you're confident just under an hour. So just demonstrating here the climate control.